There's a satirical element to what I do, which is probably why I paint these figures in such kind of over-the-top pomposity. I take a section each day and start at the bottom, work my way up, because I like to have a lot of paint kind of dripping and falling and smearing and blurring, so I don't want to have to rework any of that. And then sometimes I will take a look at a section maybe a few days later, and if I'm not happy with it, I will go back into it and, destroy it, for want of a better word. I think my work is a lot of like painting on and taking back off, so it's kind of like that duality of trying to paint something kind of correctly and then, erasing it as well, which I think comes from having a graffiti background as well, where we used to paint something and then it would be gone, a few days later. So I always quite like that idea of censorship and erasure. I came across a book of historical reenactors, which is kind of how I ended up in this kind of weird history space. And I just love the idea of these guys being everyday people, like, I don't know, they're bus drivers or teachers or accountants or whatever, and then at the weekends they like to dress up as Napoleon. I think it's fantastic, kind of sense of power dressing and leveling up. I loved the theatricality of it and the artifice as well, because it's not real, even if in my paintings they look real. It's like a historical filter or looking at contemporary issues through a historical lens. I just really like this kind of 18th century costume. I think it's incredibly ornate and elaborate and kind of ridiculous really by contemporary standards. Like the men wore stockings and heels, and their shoes had buckles and powdered wigs and frock coats, and like incredibly feminine by today's standards. So I really like kind of leaning into that. And then as I got a little bit older, I got more interested in current affairs and politics and kind of listening to Prime Minister's questions on the radio sometimes, and there's just all these men roaring and shouting and braying. I just loved the absurdity of it all and how kind of theatrical it is. And I think as well, like my background with being, I'm Irish and I did graffiti. So I think when you do graffiti, you develop a healthy skepticism of authorities. And then Irish people have more than a healthy skepticism of kind of authoritarianism, given our history of colonialism. So I think my work, I very much like to see myself as punching up. My work goes from kind of fight to struggle, and then sometimes it can look like a dance. So I do like that kind of grey area where you're not really sure what's going on. Like, are they dancing or are they fighting? I don't paint these figures with reverence and with, painstaking detail. I like to feel like I'm subverting them or I'm deconstructing their kind of power and authority. I love that idea of ruin and collapse. Everything changes. Most empires end up falling eventually, I think.